For the 5th coronation anniversary of Chabazinga of Busoga. The Minister for Culture says that Chabazinga's 5th anniversary is centered on fighting early marriages and bridging the poverty gap within the region.
Speaking at the media while receiving 50 million check from Uganda Breweries Limited, the Busoga Premier Dr. Joseph Muvawala said the kingdom is surviving on the goodwill of the people.
Culture we're encouraging now is culture that is positive to the youth, that helps them become good, that helps you to be disciplined. I don't think many of us will be here if in our youth we were not disciplined. Some of them are still.
Busoga Premier said more community-based activities are still going on to improve Busoga well-being.
And at the same time, we are launching a tree planting drive. If you notice, we have destroyed the environment ourselves. It's our responsibility to plant. And we are seeking to restore the environment, and we have declared that we must plant in the next 4 years 5 million trees.
While handing over the contribution, Juliana Kagwa, Marketing Manager Uganda Breweries Limited, said the support towards the kingdom has been purposed to be the center of celebrations of culture in Uganda.
The reason why we have lent ourselves to developing and working closely with kingdoms across Uganda. Today is about celebrating Busoga Kingdom in particular, and it's the reason why we've come here this morning.
The celebrations will be at Butagaya Sub-County Headquarters, Jinja District, in Ibutembe Chiefdom on 13th of this month, under the theme, Preparing a Youth Based on Busoga Culture Norms and Virtues. Abdul Nasir Luwama for UBC News.
And of course, as we heard from the Katukiro of Busoga, Dr. Joseph Muvawala, as he is asking the Busoga region leaders to campaign and fight against early marriages. Now turning into Parliament, Deputy Speaker of Parliament Jacob Olanya has warned government technocrats against fortifying legal documents or procedures while conducting public business. Olanya's warning follows remarks by the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Health, Diana Atwine, who faults public service standing orders for what she calls derailing service delivery. The two government principals disagreed during the National Closeout Workshop for the Governance, Accountability, Participation and Performance Program, one of the USAID and DFED-aided program, as we hear in this report.
Because I took money that was redundant that I saved here, and I paid the arrears that we had accumulated, and then I have to go and answer. And therefore my report is qualified, serious qualified, because you have saved money and you put here where it was not supposed to be. So that is one disease that we must address as government. If we are going to make changes in our government, in service delivery, we must go beyond the legalities. We must look at the better good, the greater good, and the result.
There's something called the public policy cycle. You from the Ministry of Health propose a budget to us about how much money you need to do what. And you are specific about what you are going to do with that money. And we come, we look at it, and we agree, give them that money. And we appropriate by law that this money is for this purpose. This money is for this purpose. So, Madam Permanent Secretary, if you went and started changing them without following the laws, you are in trouble. That's what systems are about.
I'm a public service, but I don't believe in those cake processes. Someone does not perform, you cannot do anything. I have been to call to Parliament to explain why some people declined to give appointment. Someone comes and works 3 times a day, a month, but someone, you must be stuck with those ones. Even when you write and say, I reprimand So what? I am permanent and pensionable.
Systems are meant to function by being followed. So if you need to make some changes, the law is clear about what you should do. You can ask. Sometimes you do it by supplementary. Sometimes you do it by suppression. But all must be approved again, because Parliament, you advise Parliament to approve 5 million shillings for you to repair a car, for your cars. Now you are saying, this money which was for repairing cars, the 5 million, I am going to use it to build a house. Now that is not the purpose for which that money was budgeted.
Okay, and then to make his remarks, please come.
Now, that was quite a heated debate there. Now, let's cross over to Busongora Kingdom, where the king of Busongora, His Royal Majesty Omukama Ndahora II Kashagama, said the kingdom is to embark on documenting their altered history after the 1891 to 1931 colonial displacement. Omukama Ndahora II also thanked government for returning about 15,000 acres of Busongora land for resettlement.
Returned about 15,000 acres of land to the Busongora Kingdom to resettle the displaced subjects. The Busongora were displaced by the colonialists between 1891 and 1931, a venture that tainted the history of the kingdom. The king of Busongora, Omukama Ndahora II Kashagama, says the kingdom is focused on reviving their heritage and rewriting Busongora history.
And it's been a challenge to try and get all this information out. So we're now producing an orthography, working on producing an orthography and a dictionary, so that we can give it to schools.
Omukama Ndahora II emphasized their goal to ultimately become a model kingdom if his subjects economically engage in several developments to emulate their ancestors. Omukama Ndahora II said they are writing the Busongora orthography and asks government to adopt it into the national curriculum, as he emphasizes continuous support for community projects.
A dictionary, so that we can give it to schools. Hopefully the National Curriculum Board can adopt it for a textbook.
And we thank our God so much for the visitors who came to fundraise for us, more especially the King of Busongora. He also was with us, and we thank him for his contribution, because for him, he contributed cash 1 million.
The Busongora originally came from the Chwezi dynasty of western Uganda and eastern Congo. Predominantly, the Busongora settled in mountainous areas and terrains. They are largely pastoralists, salt manufacturers, among other economic activities.
And right across this valley is the Queen Elizabeth National Park. So Busongora are very protective of animals. We have a taboo against killing animals, against hunting, so we don't hunt. But if a hunter chases an animal to your house, you have to protect the animal.
Activities. Story filed by Modachi Wycliffe, UBC News.
Now, Tororo Malaba police are currently stranded with over 20 Congolese refugees 2 weeks after their interception at Uganda-Kenya-Malaba border. The refugees were intercepted on the 29th of last month while attempting to cross to Kenya through Malaba border, as we hear in this report.
These are some of the 27 Congolese nationals who were intercepted last month at Uganda-Kenya border by police as they were trying to cross to Kenya through Malaba border. At Malaba police post, the group, which is comprised of mainly malnourished children, is apparently struggling to make ends meet. These refugees spend the night in Malaba police post offices and shift the tree sheds during day. Wamungu Mango, one of the refugees, owes their decision of sneaking into the country to the hearsays about Uganda and Kenya having several refugee camps.
Siku kuchimbia tukwende kwa Uganda yuko mzuri. Tunakuja polisi na kamati na tupeleka hapa.
She narrates their current challenges, including food and shelter.
Wachimbizi na Uganda iko banakamata modokari na tunakuja naye. Modokari napeleka kwa barabara.
The regional police commander, Bukedi region, Julius Tusengure confirms the presence of the refugees, adding that investigations are ongoing to establish their true status.
We are getting information, first of all, from them and from other sources to exactly identify them and also find out their intention of crossing to Uganda, or why they are moving out and how they entered Uganda.
Tusengure, however, says should the group fail to be identified as refugees, the law will catch up with them accordingly. The 27 refugees, 5 adults and 22 children, are believed to have come from Kivu province in Congo through Kampala and then to Malaba border in Tororo.
We're going to take a short break, but News Tonight will continue after that. Stay with us.
By police as they were trying.
Every dream has a challenging journey. Ours began in 1998 with a mission to drive the development of a robust communications sector in Uganda. We created structures to champion the dream. We've evolved, made discoveries, supported great minds, empowered Ugandans, and fostered a vibrant culture, enabling communication for all. Down the years, we've created memories and networks, uniting generations and building great partnerships. Together, we can go even further. UCC, celebrating 20 years of achievements.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pain Arena. Introducing on the right corner, Mr. Action, the reigning heavyweight champion in the ring against
the Headache, the #1 contender. And the bell rings.
Headache charges forward with a steady right and a left hook. Action dodges. He misses out with an inch. Wait a minute. Mr. Action launches back with a kick. The final blow. He is out.
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice. The Parliament of Uganda will host the 64th Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference from the 22nd to the 29th of September 2019 at the Munyonyo Commonwealth Resort. The conference provides an opportunity for parliaments to discuss best practices, governance values, and socio-economic aspirations of the Commonwealth. The conference will run under the theme Adoption, Engagement, and Evolution of Parliaments in a Rapidly Changing Commonwealth. Discussions will focus on climate change, innovations in parliaments, persons with disabilities, youth, urbanization, sexual harassment, and separation of powers, among other topics. More than 1,000 delegates from 54 countries are expected, and this will be an opportunity for Ugandans in the social and economic sectors to benefit by providing their services. Follow us on the hashtag 64CPC2019 and on Facebook at 64th Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference. This message is brought to you by the Clerk to Parliament.
Does heartburn stop you from eating the things you love? Eating too fast, alcohol, or spicy food can trigger acidity, heartburn, indigestion, or flatulence. Your best bet is Better Cool. Better Cool works fast to relieve acidity, heartburn, and indigestion. Trust Better Cool. Enjoy life.
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
The Electoral Commission has released guidelines for countrywide reorganization of polling stations from 2nd to 14th September in preparation for 2020-2021 general elections to enable voters conveniently cast their votes. Every parish, ward, and electoral area must have at least one polling station. Where no polling station exists in a newly created parish or ward, at least one polling station must be recommended by the stakeholders in the area. The returning officer must ensure that each electoral area at sub-county level is demarcated and approved by the Commission. Sub-county supervisors shall oversee the reorganization exercise. In case of parish, village, or electoral areas at sub-county without polling stations, meetings will take place at the mother parish where current polling stations are located. For details, call 0312-211-050. Announced by the Uganda Electoral Commission.
Welcome back. It's time for us to see what's happening in the business world. We start off with infrastructure financing, where technocrats, economists, legislators and others from the continent have converged at Imperial Botanical Hotel in Entebbe to deliberate and find solutions on Africa's over-reliance on external borrowing. The Pan-African Conference comes at a time where there is increased debt burden on many African countries, which is leading to economic distress.
Uganda, like many other African economies, has resorted to external sources to fund the road and energy sector projects. These projects are of fundamental importance in enhancing economic growth and development. However, concerns are emerging on the cost of processing and servicing such debts.
We need to shed light, and I think that's the purpose of the conference. See how much light we can shed on these very complicated issues and assist ourselves and other generations in improving debt, and particularly in reducing debt commitment and making sure that future debt is cost-effective and sustainable.
The stock of public debt has risen over the years from 39 trillion shillings in the financial year 2017-2018 to 42 trillion shillings in the financial year 2018-2019, with external debt alone valued at 25 trillion shillings. Analysts argue that although debt is not bad for an economy, failure to service the loans compounded with an insatiable borrowing appetite can lead to distress.
I've also read in the footnotes of the Exim Bank financing, they are giving us money in expectation of some exports. And of course, this includes oil. So I don't want to imagine we are already mortgaging our minerals and oil, because I've seen that in the Chinese agreement.
So having your own national debt sustainability analysis will give you a broader and bigger picture of your ability to handle amounts of debt at any given point.
It is against this background that the first Pan-African Conference on Public Financing for Health and Road Infrastructure in Africa is being held in Uganda.
Out of the 54 African countries, only 8 have got debt sustainability, which is a little okay, but the rest of the countries they are having a lot of debt distress.
The problem is how we manage these debts and what does these debts serve when they come to our countries.
It's obvious that infrastructure development is a fundamental driver of economic growth and development. However, participants concur that decisions made on how borrowed resources are utilized determines the extent to which financial freedom is gained to facilitate slipping out of the debt burden. Dennis Igawa for UBC News in Entebbe.
Thank you very much, Dennis Sigoa. Still in business, the Uganda National Oil Company, in about the rice production, about 400 rice producers from 57 companies are unemployed following a VAT exemption by Uganda Revenue Authority to 14 companies from a High Court ruling that issued an injunction which has stayed for about 5 years. While receiving the petition from Rice Business Sector Association Limited, the Speaker of Parliament, Rebecca Kadaga, pledged to engage the Attorney General, asking him to give an explanation and to provide a way forward on this court injunction. Well, we will be bringing you this very story in our next bulletin. Right now, we're going to take another short break and return with more news. Now, Getting back a little bit into business and about the oil and gas in the country, the Uganda National Oil Company, UNOC, has trained oil and gas service providers on how to meet the required standards as demanded by the sector. Let's hear more in this report.
The industrial baseline survey stipulates some of the critical areas that require immediate attention to boost oil and gas industrial requirement. Uganda National Oil Company encourages local supporters to oil and gas sector to identify available gaps that need to be filled to meet international standards. This happened in a special training for local petroleum service providers.
About 92% of people out of each 100,000 people on a construction site are actually in major accidents, including fatalities, where people die. And the majority of the death arises from people falling from height due to poor scaffolding. These people do not use standard scaffolds, they use eucalyptus trees tied.
Quality, health, safety and environment policy is key in the oil and gas production as a basis to benefit all relevant Ugandan service providers and individuals.
Oil and gas, we have zero tolerance to accidents and incidents. And that high rate, as I mentioned, is associated to this company not having a robust quality, health, safety and environment management system. And as I mentioned, that system is also a legal requirement. There are safety requirements. There are building standards and regulations that most of these construction companies do not abide to.
Suppliers to the sector raise the policy, infrastructure, and lack of access to finance, among other issues, for special attention.
To push such an agenda, because trust me, QHS has a financial implication.
What is the plan for our country beyond the oil?
Meanwhile, Minister of Finance Matia Kasaija clarified about the trending information concerning Uganda's petroleum exploration agreement.
The talks have not collapsed. No, we are still discussing. What has happened, the agreement where Total and Talo were to have concluded has got what? Has expired. But it has not closed. How they can resume that contract, and then they will continue finding a way on how we can extract that oil and get our first oil.
The industrial baseline survey recommends that existing institutions need to be more oriented on oil and gas qualifications to match industrial requirements. Abdul Nasir Luwama for UBC News.
On the international scene, the body of Robert Mugabe has left Singapore on a private flight destined for his home country in Zimbabwe. The former president had been receiving hospital treatment in the city-state before he died last week, aged 95. Mr. Mugabe was Zimbabwe's first leader after independence in 1980. He held onto power for almost 4 decades before being ousted in a coup d'etat in 2017. He will be buried on Saturday after a state funeral on that very day. Now, the specially chartered flight carrying Mugabe's body is expected to land in his home country at 3 p.m. according to family members. Mugabe is then expected to lie in state at Rufaro Stadium in Harare, then the state funeral at the 60,000-seat stadium. And in sports, all roads will this weekend lead to the National Technical College Lira, where the volleyball club championship will take place. Uganda's top volleyball teams take part in the championship, whose individual best in each gender represents Uganda in the continental engagements, as we hear in this report. Well, that does bring us to the very end of News Tonight. Thank you so much for choosing us at this particular time. Our next bulletin will be coming your way at 10 o'clock. Before we sign out, let's have the recap on our headlines. Olanya and Twine disagree on public service issues. Kawesi murder suspects rearrested outside court. Malaba police stranded with Congolese refugees. Pan-African Conference tackles debt burden. And on the international scene, Mugabe's body flown home from burial preparations. That's it from us. My name is Patricia Lokoma Mgalo Mohammed there on sign language. From the entire team, we say keep it UBC TV.